Young people do not learn from us by what we tell them. They watch us. Well, kids, your sons, your daughters, my father had this saying, do as I say, not as I do, which made him a liar. I'm here to give, and it's been made clear to me that I have a gift with young folks. I have educated and pursued and will spend the rest of my life giving to young folks, because when I had lost everything and nobody was there for me, they were the first hand that reached out to me. And it was real, it was authentic, and it's what makes dreams. It's the magic in life. Live it like there's no tomorrow. He doesn't understand that. Living it like that means that I will pursue it carpe diem, to seize the day.
You're listening to the Begin Again podcast, where real stories of addiction, recovery, and transformation take center stage. I'm Gary Menkes, and each week we bring you honest conversations with people who chose to stop surviving and start living. These are the stories that remind us healing is possible. No matter where you've been or what you've faced, it's never too late to take your power back. Thanks for being here. Let's begin again. Welcome back to the Begin Again podcast, where we share stories of resilience, redemption, and the power of choosing a different path, one day at a time. These are stories of healing, hope, and the radical transformation that recovery makes possible. And joining us tonight to share a story with us is a former Navy SEAL whose military career ended due to drug use. After finding recovery, he set out on a journey, and today, with over 35 years of sobriety, he dedicates his life to mentoring young men through recovery and personal growth. He's the founder of Honor Bound Academy, an innovative and educational mentorship initiative, and he's the author of his latest book titled Special Welfare, Social Warfare. He is Thomas LaGrave. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Quite the introduction. So let's see if we can't unfold this.
Let's unfold it. Let's help some people as we do it. As we just talked offline, I knew this was a heck of a bio I was going to read on you. Take us back 35 plus years ago. I haven't had a SEAL who I actually haven't had a SEAL period, I don't believe on. And I certainly haven't had one who ended his career due to drug use. Where were you? Take us back there if you would, Thomas.
Yeah, I went in the military and had no idea. All that I knew is I wanted to be a doctor and a hospital corpsman. And so turns out that the third week in boot camp, you can take a screening test for a thing that's called Navy SEALs. First time I'd ever heard of it. And so I went, long story short, I passed the screening test and ended up at BUDS. And BUDS is basic underwater demolition SEAL training. Mm-hmm. Now, to clarify here, it's really important because it's been brought up. I started my drug use at the age of 14. And I would say probably within that year somewhere, I was addicted. But it took me 15 more years to figure that out. Yeah. So I end up in the military and graduating BUDS, I was in class 106, February 29th, 1980, for any of those that want to verify me. So the part is 9 years and 6 months later, I get discharged for drug use, and it ended a career that started off magnificently and ended horribly. And there was no going back at that point. The military had enough of the drugs. You can use all the alcohol you want, but no drugs. And so I was discharged into the civilian world for the first time at the age of 29. And that's where the next journey began. Ended up in a recovery facility called Project 90, 90 days, 90 meetings. And I was able to break the physical. For 90 days, I didn't do a drug. But now you got to figure out how to live life without your most infamous crutch. And that is whatever your choice of substance is. And so I got to about a year, and I went through a 12-step program, and I had done all the steps, and it just wasn't working. And I knew I was going to use again. And so I came up with the brilliant idea of taking myself back to that place where I had begun so that I could see it in real time, what I could not remember. I couldn't remember my past, and I certainly did not have any clue as to how to feel. Emotions were like non-existent to my reality. I had two emotions, happy and rage. And that's the only thing I understood about that. So to bring this story into a circle, I went to an adolescent recovery facility and started working as an overnight counselor.
Wow.
I did not go there to help kids. I went there to figure out how to live life by watching them as they were dealing with their addiction at the same age I was at the time I began it. And it worked. It not only worked, but it became a passion. That group of adolescents gave me my life back, gave me purpose and meaning. And because of the gift that was given and the way I'm made up, I'm loyal. And I have given my loyalty, not to that group of kids that helped me, but that age group, adolescents. And what I've done is I got to the point where once I did the overnight counselor for 4 years, I moved on because I didn't have an education and I wasn't going to get a caseload. And that was fine. So it was time to move on. And I took another job. I was a unit director of a Boys and Girls Club. So there's two age groups here. The adolescent recovery facility is 13 to 17, Boys and Girls Club 6 to 18. So now I have the full range. And what I find out is I've got a gift that young folks find me authentic and real because I'm not going to lie to them. I'm not going to deceive them. And if I tell them I'm going to do something, my word is my bond. And so what happened was I would, from time to time, get a youngster come to me with an issue that was that I had no knowledge of how to answer it. I was in over my head. And I did not find that acceptable because I was highly trained in the military. I was a medic that was sent to every kind of medical school you can imagine. And I had this chip on my shoulder that I don't need an education. What I am is good enough, so this should be good enough. The kids changed my mind. When they started coming with these kinds of questions, I said, enough's enough. So I put a pause on my life, went back and bachelor's, master's, license, board certification. All those things look great on the wall. But the point was, I can't have a kid say, this is what's happened in my life. I don't know what to do and not have an answer for him. So I went and got past myself, my ego, my arrogance, because that's a huge problem in sobriety too, that still reaches out and taps me from time to time. Really? But the long story short now was that from that experience, how I was put together and how the life unfolded, I've spent the last 35 years working more or less with young adults and adolescents. I created a program called Honor Bound Academy, which we have now closed the doors because it's time to move on to another stage. But at that point, it was a rite of passage, which I took from my knowledge of BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL training, was set up 3 phases, each phase 2 months. First phase, physical, second phase, swimming, third phase, land warfare. Remove anything that looks militaristic because I'm not creating little Navy SEALs. If that's what a youngster wants to do, I know where to send them. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm creating is youngsters that believe in themselves, that have an understanding that life is going to throw them sometimes, that there are others in this world that will be there for them. And then I had there were 3 phases to it. And I used air, water, and land. Nature being, we would go out in nature and there were many ways to help heal. Now, I've been a therapist for the last 20 plus years. And the greatest therapist I ever met was Mother Nature. From my experience, that there is a healing in nature that I saw through my military career when I had to trust instinct and nature to stay alive. And I knew it existed. And once I no longer was in the military perspective of it, nature still has that ability to keep us safe, teach us, and not take it personal. It'll kill you if you're not going to respect it. All of that is what got kids motivated and interested. And as it stands right now, I'm at retirement. I have reached that age that I'm continuing on my clinical. I do telehealth. I have 10 folks that I do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's because I have to keep my abilities honed. Because once you leave, if you leave it, you lose it. And so the rest of the time, I get to now volunteer with all of my skill sets to take it where I feel it is where it works best. And that is back to where I began with young folks. I am now mentoring, teaching, and just being in the presence of young people in this day and age, because from my arc of knowledge and insight and how I progressed, I've watched a couple generations now go from adolescence to adulthood. I did it. I've now seen the generation that we call them X, and then the millennials. I watched them go from adolescence to adulthood. And now I'm looking at a generation that is truly gifted and lost. And that's where right now the book tells that story. It tells the story of my rite of passage and the rites of passages for the last two generations, and what was the same in each of us, with each of us, what was different, and what's missing now. And that is pretty much, in a nice little bow tie, that's my story.
If we can back up a little bit, and that is all super interesting and really powerful stuff, but I'd like to back up a little bit. I find it fascinating that, you're focusing on these adolescents, these young people.
Yeah.
I have to ask, what was bringing you back to your childhood? I got to believe there's a connection there of why you feel so connected to that age group, perhaps. But I also want to go back. You said you started your drug use at 14. What was your drug of choice, and how did you become so accomplished to graduate from Buds and become a Navy SEAL and go from 9 years and 6 months under drug use? What was some of the darkest moments? How did it, as you had said, end so badly? What happened at the end there?
There's a saying in recovery: you're only as sick as your secrets.
I've heard that one, and I believe that one.
And so the secrets do not have to be devastating. They just have to be something that made your mental acuity skew, without the ability of trusting somebody could help you through, not asking, and then incorrectly assessing how you saw life. I'm a brother to a sister who's developmentally disabled. She's a year older than I am. She was born in 58. I was born in 59. This is at a time where society said, you know what, just put her into an institution, go on and have more kids. And my mother was not going to go there. So she thought, what the hell, I'll have another kid and my daughter will learn from my son. That's called parentification. And from a clinical standpoint, that's not the best thing to do to your kids, because I took it on me that I was responsible for her. I took it on me that there were moments where I'm trying to find myself, and I've got a sister who is embarrassing me and is making me feel, and it's as horrible as it sounds, it's the truth that I experienced that made me shift. So I ended up with two younger brothers and an older sister that's developmentally disabled. And I ended up being the shot caller. Both of my brothers are in recovery and very accomplished themselves. My parents, once they saw their children stop using drugs and alcohol, stopped their alcohol use. So we're a family it was in our family. And my personal was how I responded to my sister devastated my young reality. And that's what I hid, that I hated, loved her, that weird dichotomy. And that's where I began the process. Now, Navy SEALs, and this is just my personal view, you don't make a Navy SEAL, we're born. What happens is the opportunity is given to the person who was born, like I did. I did not go in the military to be a SEAL. I went in to be a hospital corpsman. I did that. But I also had the physical attributes that is required, the swimming, the physical, all of that was in me. In high school, I played football, basketball, baseball. 3 letters. I did all of that. I was a jock. And now, 1977 is when I graduated, and there was only one thing on the market at the time. The 60s had ended, and there was marijuana, and it was really not very good marijuana. But what it also did was it binds the classes. Now, if you go back 3 years, 1974 was busing. I got into my school bussed, all the colors that you can imagine. Hispanic and Black, and everybody ended up in school, and we fought in the 9th grade. We did so in the 10th grade, and then we started partying in the 11th grade, and there were all the cliques. There was the jocks, there was the people that did audio visual, there were the ones that liked to play chess, but everybody got high. And while you were getting high, you would sit in groups and then go your separate way. And again, the marijuana was what we called bunk. It wasn't what it is today. And so it was a time that has gone and will never come back again. But it was a time where that's what we did. We played sports, we got high. My father wanted an athlete. I gave him fees and I partied and got by on my talent of physical. And that's my story. I got by, and I never truly, until I lost what was most precious to me. That changed it.
Which was what? Was that your career?
Yeah. That was at 9 years and 6 months. And at that point, there was no going back. And I was halfway through to retirement, and I was physically not to par. I needed to be discharged. They did everybody a favor. I couldn't see it then, but I know now that I was going to get somebody else killed, and that is not acceptable. You don't you catch the bullet. You do not misfire and shoot your brother next to you. And that's where this was going. And the military said, enough's enough. And they sent me on my way, which was the greatest thing that could have ever happened today. Not then. Then it was devastating.
You mentioned the chip on your shoulder, and I can relate to the chip on your shoulder, on my shoulder, I should say. I had one since I was a kid, and just kept growing and growing. And it wasn't until I got into recovery that I started doing the work on myself that I realized a lot about myself, especially this chip on my shoulder. Where do you attest to what was it, your sister, that dichotomy, like you said, the resentment, you love her at the same time, and you feel there's probably guilt in there as well. But what else was leading to that chip on your shoulder?
You know what? It was a compilation of things. I don't like anybody to be better than me. Nobody's better than me, period. No, that's not going to happen. And when I first started out in the teams, the physical attributes were high end. I was amongst my peers. I had a step up, and that allowed me to believe my print. You're a rootin', tootin', shootin', lootin', parachuting, double cap, crimping frog man. Bullshit. You are no different than the guy next to you. But the fact of the matter is, you were gifted with certain attributes. An opportunity presented itself. You took it, but you didn't you broke the cardinal sin. And that is, what have you done today to earn your trident? And the trident is the symbol that we wear on our chest. That's why I sacrificed my life to get that pin. And the saying is, what have you done today to earn that? And I lost sight of that. I lost sight of the fact that I was responsible for becoming better each day. And I sat back on my laurels. There's plenty of sayings, and I broke the cardinal rule, and it came back to bite me, and bite me severely.
Yeah. Tom, was it like a drift? Was it like a slow kind of long drift off of that? Is that what it was for you? Yeah. And they finally had enough?
Yeah. So it starts at 14, and then I get in, and I would say my first enlistment was rootin' tootin', all that. And then I re-enlisted and got a couple opportunities, got a couple schools, and got to the place where the military was changing at that point too. When I started out, Carter administration. When I got to Bud's, Reagan administration. And Ronald Reagan went, and there was an issue in the desert with a collision when we had Iran and they had a bunch of our folks from that circumstance. The military at that point had just got done with Vietnam, and it was not what it is today. But it began with that incident in the desert and Ronald Reagan's belief of zero tolerance, no more drugs. And I had been there for 3.5, 4 years, proven myself. I'm an operator. That doesn't apply to me. Okay, sure. Believe that. And then the physical is deteriorating. And by the time I'm in my 9th year, I'm not running the times that I need to be. I'm not swimming in the times I need to be. I am. And it's known in my platoon. They're carrying me. And then your officers get a sense of that. And then the command gets a sense of that. And then the boss, the CO gets it. And he sent it to the XO, and the XO is his hammer. And I was hammered. And I deserved to be hammered. You cannot have me operating as I was at that place and time. And that they discharged me today, I am forever grateful. At that moment, devastated.
From that point, Tom, how long was it until you essentially took a really deep look at yourself and said, what do you want to do? How long was it until you went and sought out recovery?
I was discharged June 28th, 1988. It's amazing how we remember certain dates. And on October 17th, 1990, what was it? 1998. So it was 4 months when I entered a recovery facility. From the day I walked out of SEAL Team 1, kicked off the quarterdeck, to the day I walked into Project 90 was 4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And I know you had said you went into a 12-step program, but I want to hear how, when you went into, started working with the kids, and what was the connection? Was it something, again, I'm thinking out loud here, was it something that you're talking to Tom LaGrave, the 14-year-old?
Yeah. And here's the thing is, I knew that, we men in our society are told to shut off the emotions and man up, grab your package. This is really not a wise thing to do to young men. But we can go there on a separate one. From where I'm looking at it was, the military does it to everybody. Your emotions are shut off because you have to be able to pull the trigger. That's what boot camp is for. That is there for a reason. And it comes about, we're shutting down any thoughts that create the emotions that might hesitate when you're supposed to pull the trigger. That's everybody in the military. Now put it on steroids and take it to the umpteenth degree.
Right.
So emotions are not cold and calculating. That's how I operate. So now we get into the recovery, and there's no way to get recovery without coming to terms with the emotions. And when you do finally awaken those, demons galore come out of the woodwork in places that you have no idea. The saying, more shall be revealed. At the beginning, what it came down to was there was a secret, and you don't get the secret because I gave it to my sponsor, but it was sexual in origin and nature, and it was killing me. And I was able to, through the program, watching kids come to terms with those secrets while I was working there, because they would have certain crescendos where you would go so many months and then it was time to take the next step. And I was there for several of those to watch several youngsters, both men and women, come to terms with things that were killing me, and I was never going to tell another human being. And I found that to be not a hypocrite. I was telling them what they needed to do, and they were doing it, but I wasn't. It's cowardice. And you know what? Anybody that's arrogant, as you say, I'm sharing with you, don't call us a coward. That ain't floating. So in the end, because I had watched them do it, and because I felt committed to being able to give back to them what they gave me, I trusted the program and them got a sponsor, and finally came to terms with the secret that was killing me.
Amazing. I was going to ask you along your path here, was there a mentor? Was your mentor your first sponsor?
Yeah, it was, you know what? I did the fourth and fifth step. On the fourth time, it was the right one. The first one, I did it, and it was with the guy who ran the program. He was the manager of the program I went through. And I think I got 2 or 3 sentences down, and he started laughing at me. And you know what? I'm giving you the dirt, and you giving me everything everybody did to you. Don't give me what they did to you. Tell me what you did to them. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. You know what? So the first time was a failure, and it took a little while. And then the second time, what do? I find a female to do my 12 steps, because you know what? I can tell her, and I can bullshit my way through this. And you know what? Strike 2. The third time, I knew what I had to do, but I didn't have the courage to yet do it. And then it got to the point where, again, I was probably in my 4th year, and I'm going to use again.
Hey, everyone, quick break to tell you about Recover. That's RCVR. If you're on this journey of recovery, you already know it's not just about quitting. It's about rebuilding. It's about self-discovery and reclaiming your best life. That's exactly why I created Recover, a lifestyle brand built for us, by us, those who have walked through the fire and come out stronger. Head over to recoverbrand.com. That's RCVRbrand.com to grab your Recover gear. We wear it as a daily reminder that you're not alone and that your story is just beginning. And because you're part of this community, use Recover20 for 20% off your first order. And wear your story, share the message, and end the stigma. Now back to the show.
So I look around, and there's this guy that's about 6'8", 325, ex-Marine. Oh, man. You know what? That's it. And if it isn't the damnedest thing how things work, that sexual secret that I had kept that was killing me, he told me about his. And I was like, wow. So not only did I get the right one, I got the right one. And when you get that one done, life changes. And it became, I was looking at things completely differently. Once I had come to terms that I am no different than anybody else. I am a recovering addict and alcoholic. My name's Tom. You know what? We all have unique stories. And there are moments that all of us have that we are grateful for and that we would prefer not remembering. And that's where I come from today. I'm like, the kids that are dealing with what they're facing today requires me to be grounded in such a way that I am empathetic, spontaneous. I need to be responsive immediately because they're moving at a rate that moves quicker than any generation before them, and authentic. They know that if I say I'm going to be there, I'm always there. And that bond of trust, when when another human being is in trouble and they know they can trust you, magic happens.
Amazing. I too can attest that when I went through my 4th step and I shared it with someone for the first time, some of the stuff, it changed. It was life changing. I'm curious because I had a few cracks at it myself. I was never honest until I was in and out of AA for 4 years, and I never put 60 days together. The only time I finally did was 19 plus years ago, which is my sobriety date. And I did everything different, Tom. I didn't just sit in the back of the room, check a box. I say, look, I went to the meeting. I went and sat in the front row. I did when the total stranger said, hey, you got to call me tomorrow, and every instinct in my being is to like, take your phone number and keep walking. I was like, I gave up. And looking back, I was given this beautiful gift, this gift of surrender, because every other way I was trying, and I tried it so many different ways, it was not working. And so I went back, even though I was never going back to AA, I was never going back to those people. I went crawling back. I called there, and everything changed when I went through the steps. And some of those things that I never wanted to share, and I was going to hold my grave, some of the things that lead to that chip on my shoulder that growing up as a kid and it still flares up sometimes. It did change when I shared that with another human being, and you bring out the importance of sharing this stuff, because just like you said, the reason why you raise your hand sometimes, even in a meeting, I'm not saying some of the dark stuff, but when you're in a meeting or you're somewhere, you raise your hand because A, you can help someone else, but B, there's going to be someone that went right through it, that has been similar, same spot as you have, and they're going to help you through it. And that is the beauty of this community, if you ask me. That's one of the many aspects of the beauty. But I'm curious, when you had this for so long, right, you're holding it, I get it. Did you ever write it down before you had shared it? Was it out in the universe on a piece of paper? Or
Yeah,
was it one shot?
No, Project 90 had that. Everybody got a blank piece of paper and you wrote it on pencil and then you folded it the same way. Everybody had to fold it the same way, left to right to left. And then we put it in a hat and then went around and you heard yours being said.
Whoa. Yeah.
So it was out in the universe. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The recovery facility do that. Hey, I need to bring something up too, because it's a truth that we're missing.
Go for it.
5.5 years ago, I relapsed.
Okay.
For 2 weeks. First time in my life I was ever suicidal. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Long story short was I stopped going to meetings. I stopped running a program. I stopped following, and I thought I could lead myself. And I relapsed, and it was horrible because the reason I shared with 1977's marijuana not being very good is I smoked today's marijuana and no, thank you. That was the first time I've heard voices. I'm like, this isn't working. And my saving grace, 2 brothers. They both, my youngest brother's got the most. He's got actually 37 years. And my middle brother's got 32. And now I got 5.5 again. But they came and they put it point blank to me. They said, we're here if you want to quit. If not, we're not here, and do not come to find us. And I was, at 2 weeks, I was falling apart, and it was like, no, help. Please, God, help me.
Yeah. That is thank you for sharing that, because that is such an important part of this. You reminded me of me. I was, like I said, I have 19 plus years, but I may have shared this before, but it was around 10 years. And just how you described, I was not working a program, was not going to meetings, was feeling really sorry for myself. Why can't I be normal? Why? I remember feeling bad. Oh, I can't even have a glass of wine with my brother-in-law. I never even liked wine ever. I never drank a glass of wine. Really drank. I guzzled a bottle if I had to, but I wasn't a wine drinker is my point. And I went to a meeting, and it was talk about higher power doing his magic for me, which I can't do for myself. I saw one of my dad's old buddies who used to be in it at my house when I was a young kid, and some of those resentments, some of the things I saw as a young kid that he was in, and he said, "Hey man, really good to see you." And I said, "Yeah, you too." And I said, "Just so you know," I didn't even know why. I just blurted this out. I said, "I'm probably not going to do this much longer. I'm pretty sure I'm going out." Like I was there. And he said, "You know, you can't do that, right?" I said, "I do." I said, "I'm just telling you that's where I'm at." And he's like, "All right, let's go in the meeting." And went into a meeting. I had 2 young babies at the time, I think 2 and 1. I'm 10 years sober. And I sit down and I'm like, this may be the last one. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to let loose here. I got this. I'm a civilian now.
Yeah. A civilian. I like
And this guy, yeah, you're like in work. But so this guy shared, not the different guy. This guy went up there and he said, "I've been sober 16 years. I had a business, I had a family, and I fell off and I went back out and I lost my business and I lost my family." He had 2 kids just like I did, and he's scared the living daylights out of me. And I just said to myself, you know what? I'm going to just keep coming back just a little bit longer. And what I did was I went back and I planted myself in the program. I wasn't had 1 foot off the beam and made 1 foot touching the beam. I went all the way back in. I got a new sponsor. I went through the steps again. I've been through the steps probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 times in 19 years. I would do it again. It's good for me. But that's such an important part. And I'll say this also, Tom, 2 things. One is when I see young people in those meetings or in recovery or wherever they may be, I admire them so much because they are so ahead of the game. And number 2, people that do relapse and they come back in, I have such a warm spot for them too, because we talk a lot about fear in recovery, right? Like that word comes up, talking about this 4th step, that word comes up an awful lot, right? I didn't think it did,
I didn't think I was afraid of anything, but wow, I started writing that stuff down and being honest with myself. Fear was all across those pages for me. I was afraid of everything and I didn't realize it. But people that do go out and that do relapse and they come back, man, like I'm so proud of them, so happy for them because I know there's an alcoholic. I'm a sick dude. I know there's another run in me, right? I bring up fear because it's for me, it's a healthy fear. And now I have too many people counting on me. I don't know if I have another recovery in me. So when you come back in 2 weeks and tough love from your two brothers, God bless them too as well. And you saw it and you came right back in. I think hats off to you. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's, again, the humility in the program requires that share, because you came on and said 35 years is right. And I'm like, now to clarify, and you're right. It's interesting when you say fear, because I don't fear. I've been put into positions, but what we're talking about, that fear, that is a legitimate, it's in a class of its own, that particular fear. And I've had it at various stages in my recovery that propelled me to the next step because of that kind of emotional fear. Because I could see I can go out, but I don't know that I can get back in. And all that you've accomplished can be lost. And we can do the spiritual. For me, there's two to my life as I've come to understand it. I came to this world to get something and to give something. I have to die sober because that's what I came here for. Because as the spiritual side, I don't have a physical body. I cannot address a physical manifestation. If I die sober, I get to take that with me. That's my. The other one is I'm here to give. And it's been made clear to me that I have a gift with young folks. I have educated and pursued and will spend the rest of my life giving to young folks, because when I had lost everything and nobody was there for me, they were the first hand that reached out to me. And it was real, it was authentic, and it's what makes dreams. It's the magic in life.
I love that. I think we were saying offline how I get the opportunity to meet so many people with this podcast and this platform, to meet so many incredible people. Flip the script on life, right? Like you had said, when you get discharged from the SEALs, that was probably the worst thing you thought that can happen to you. And here we are, 30 plus years later, and when your heart, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. Now you're talking a completely different language, I'm going to guess. You weren't talking about, I'm here for two things, to give and to get. And you want to leave this world sober, and you want to give, and you want to help young people. That was my next question, but you answered it. But in a way, I'll turn it in a little bit, is how long into your recovery, how long did it take you to realize that connection with these young people? And how long was it until you said, I'm going to dedicate my life to this group of people?
Excellent. Because in the adolescent recovery facility, they were court appointed. The only way they were getting out is if they talked to the staff. They had to talk to me. Boys and Girls Club, I was in a Latino part of town, Hispanic. My membership was $3 a year. Once they paid the $3, they didn't have to look at me. They didn't have to do that was the make or break. I spent the first 2 years at the Paradise Valley Boys and Girls Club wanting to strangle them kids because they were disrespecting the hell out of me. But I wasn't going to let them win because of, I gave my word, my bond. And then somewhere at about 2 years, I don't know what it was. You know what? I opened the club and I closed the club every day at the same time. I ran athletics. I made sure they had the best looking uniforms. I made sure that they had transportation during summer breaks. A lot of kids can go to whatever, and I would buy their ticket for them. So in that going, the first 4 years was Daytop Village, adolescent recovery, 2 years Boys and Girls Club. And then somewhere in that second year, it shifted and it became a family. And my role was big brother. I was not mommy or daddy. You got those. And being the oldest brother, I knew that role intimately. And when it shifted, and it shifted because of trust. They trusted me and I trusted them. And it became a way for me to understand how to interface with that generation so that they see me as a trusted mentor, older brother figure. And it happened in the 7th year of my sobriety.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I wasn't ready for you to say you're ready to retire, but you're doing some other things, right? You just authored another book. Tell us about the book and where can we find it?
Okay. So, special welfare, social warfare. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been a social worker for the last 30 years. And what is happening in today's society, 4 years ago, I'm feeling really uncomfortable with where the country's going and has now arrived. So I wrote the book for right now. It tells about how do we know what the truth looks like. I use 3 references. You know the saying, follow the money? The disparity between the rich and poor today is horribly unfair. So to follow the money, I gave one place you can go look and it's there. And as long as nobody wants to do anything with that, then such is life. Because what we're facing in this society today is warfare 101, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And what happens is kids, this is the fact. This is the experience that I have from all the years that I have worked with youth. Young people do not learn from us by what we tell them. They watch us. Little kids, your sons, your daughters, you can talk until you're blue in the face. Good luck, whatever. If you're treating your wife badly, your daughters are seeing it, and so are your sons. My father had this saying, do as I say, not as I do, which made him a liar. So I grew up thinking lying is okay. And in this age right now, with what is beginning to become apparent is the technology, especially in the form of AI. Now, they want to replace us for everything and whatever. The fact of the matter is that our young people today are not being governed or guided from adolescence to adulthood in the modern version. I can't use what worked for me and even what worked for Generation X.
Right.
It's not going to work here. And so in the book is what I have left for parents, teachers, whoever, to get an understanding of what's the difference. We're all the same. Kid is a kid is a kid. But generationally, like I smoked marijuana with all the kids in school because it was the cool thing to do. And it was a time in our society where it didn't have the effect it does today for our youth if they're using. So the story is, if we don't get special welfare, if we do not figure the money piece out to get the services, we're going to have social warfare. And you see it in the Black community already. You see it with law enforcement. Especially the way the divide in the country is, it's apparent that powers to be that have and want the world as it is because they make money on it are fine with social warfare. But I come from that world and I still see veterans because I love veterans and I'm one. And that's one of the places I give to. And that is heartbreaking. That's what we're dealing with. And special welfare, social warfare, adolescents to adulthood, a guide. Knock yourself out.
I love it. Tell me, where can we find it? I know it's on Amazon. Where else can we find it? And where can we follow you, Tom?
Yeah. Honorbound Academy, the platform, the website is still there and it'll redirect you to all of my platforms. If you put the Honorbound Academy, all one word, lowercase, it'll take you to that platform, which will disperse you to any questions that you have. Everything that I am is there for the taking.
Excellent. And are you on any socials where we can give you a follow?
If you go on to the Honor Bound Academy, I have a 25 and a 23-year-old. They are friends of the family. I hired them to run my various platforms. So my Facebook, my Instagram. If you go to the Honor Bound Academy, you hit on the icon, it takes you directly to my Facebook, my Instagram, to my LinkedIn, wherever I'm at, they've got me going.
Excellent. Excellent. This will all be in the show notes where it would be easy to give you a follow and go to that platform and see what you're doing and follow you on your socials. And most importantly, go give the book a shout, go a look, go get it on Amazon. Last question. This has been really I knew I was going to enjoy this, and I enjoyed it way more than I thought. To be honest with you, I did. I knew I was looking forward to it when we were introduced, and I was doing some research on you, and I said, this is going to be a very interesting one. And I really enjoyed our conversation a lot, Tom. That's sincerely. One last question, and you live it. So this is a question I ask sometimes, but you are it and you live this. I was going to say, if you bumped into, and this is your whole being, so that's why I'm smiling, sorry, but if you bumped into 14-year-old Tom LaGrave and you had one piece of advice for that young man, what are you telling him?
What? And whether it makes sense or not, I would say, live it. There's no tomorrow.
Of that. I love that. I love that.
Because I cannot be woo with him. He doesn't understand that. Living it like that means that I will pursue it carpe diem, to seize the day.
Seize the day. Love it. Tom, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
It's been awesome too. Thank you for your questions. You were very insightful. You guided it wonderfully, and thank you so much.
Like I said, this has been a pleasure. I'm sincerely, bottom of my heart, grateful to connect with you and to have you on. So I thank you for all you do, especially for the adolescents of the country here. Thank you so much. And thank you for your service.
Yeah. And you have yourself a good day now, and thank you.
You do the same, sir. God bless.
Thank you for listening to the Begin Again podcast. If today's story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that healing is possible, I'd love for you to share it. Subscribe, leave a review, and help us spread the message that no one is too far gone to begin again. And if you're ready to wear your recovery with pride, visit us at recoverbrand.com. That's RCVR Brand.com. And until next time, take your power back.